My father gave me an ultimatum at Thanksgiving dinner. You can move to the laundry room or leave. My brother smirked at me across the table and said, "You understand. Do not." I walked out that night with nothing but my purse and my dignity. But 3 days later, my father was calling me in a panic because he suddenly realized something. I had been paying for everything, including his $847 monthly medications. You won't believe what happened next. Before we continue, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss stories like this one. My name is Sophia, and I'm 27 years old. For the past 5 years, I have been living with my father in Kansas City, Missouri. Most people would find that arrangement unusual for someone my age, but there was a reason I stayed. 3 years ago, my father was diagnosed with diabetes and high blood pressure. His medications were expensive, really expensive. Between his prescriptions, the house bills, groceries, and everything else, I had been covering most of our living expenses while working as a dental hygienist at a clinic downtown. I made decent money, but it was not enough to save much after paying for everything my father needed. My brother Marcus was 32 years old and had been living in Denver with his wife Natalie for the past 8 years. He rarely visited us, maybe twice a year if we were lucky. And he never not once offered to help financially. When Dad got sick, Marcus's response was to send a fruit basket and a card that said, "Get well soon." That was it. No phone calls asking how the treatment was going. No offers to split medication costs. Nothing. I did not mind taking care of Dad at first. Honestly, I did not. After Mom passed away when I was 19, Dad had been there for me through everything. He helped me through nursing school, encouraged me when I switched to dental hygiene, and never once made me feel like a burden. So when he got sick, stepping up felt natural. It felt right. But Marcus had very different ideas about family responsibility. The trouble started 3 weeks before Thanksgiving when Marcus called Dad out of nowhere. I was in the kitchen making dinner when I heard Dad's voice get excited in the living room. "Marcus, what a surprise. How are you?" I could not hear Marcus's side of the conversation, but I watched Dad's expression change from happy to concerned to something I could not quite place. When he hung up, he looked uncomfortable. "Everything okay?" I asked, bringing him his evening pills with a glass of water. "Marcus and Natalie are having some trouble," Dad said slowly. "Financial trouble." He did not give me all the details, but it sounds serious. They might need to move back here for a while. "Just temporarily," he said. "Maybe a few months while they get back on their feet." My stomach dropped. Move back here? Into this house? Well, yes. Where else would they go? Dad looked at me with those tired eyes that always made me feel guilty for questioning anything. "He is my son, Sophia. Family helps family." Those words stung because I had been helping family for 5 years straight, but apparently that only counted when it was convenient. "Okay," I said quietly. "When is he thinking? Mid-November, before Thanksgiving, probably." That gave us less than 3 weeks. I tried to push down the anxiety that bubbled up in my chest. Our house was not huge. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a small kitchen, and living room. I had the 2nd bedroom. Dad had the master. And the 3rd bedroom had been converted into a storage room years ago. Where exactly were Marcus and Natalie supposed to sleep? The answer came 2 weeks later when Marcus's truck pulled up in our driveway on a cold Tuesday afternoon. I was just getting home from work, still in my scrubs, when I saw them unloading boxes. Lots of boxes. Marcus saw me and waved. "Hey, sis, surprise. We are a few days early." Natalie stood beside him, arms crossed, looking at our modest house like it was a prison sentence. She had always been that way. Everything about our family, our house, our city was beneath her. I had learned to ignore it over the years. "Dad did not mention you were coming today," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Last-minute decision," Marcus said. "The landlord in Denver wanted us out by the end of the month, So we figured, why wait? He started hauling boxes toward the front door. Dad is inside. He is helping us figure out the sleeping arrangements. That phrase sent alarm bells ringing in my head. Sleeping arrangements. I followed them inside, my heart pounding. Dad was in the hallway looking stressed. When he saw me, he attempted a smile that did not reach his eyes. Sophia, good you are home. We need to talk about rooms. The storage room, I suggested hopefully. We could clear it out. It is full of junk, and there is no closet. Natalie interjected, wrinkling her nose. That would not work at all, Marcus nodded. We were thinking, since you are just one person, maybe you could take the laundry room. We could put a futon in there or something. It is only temporary after all. A few months at most. I stared at him. The laundry room. You want me to sleep in the laundry room? It is not that small, Marcus said defensively. And like I said, it is temporary. I looked at Dad, waiting for him to say something to stand up for me. But he just stood there, shifting his weight from foot to foot, not meeting my eyes. What about all my stuff? I asked quietly. My bed? My dresser? My clothes? We can store most of it, Natalie said briskly, as if this was already decided. You really do not need that much space anyway. That night I barely slept on the futon Marcus had set up in the laundry room. The space smelled like detergent and mildew, and every time the water heater kicked on, the whole room hummed. I lay there staring at the ceiling, my clothes hanging on a tension rod Marcus had installed over the utility sink. My entire life compressed into 100 square feet. The next morning, I found Natalie already in the kitchen making coffee. She had rearranged everything. My favorite mugs were shoved in the back of the cabinet. The coffee maker I had bought last year was replaced with some expensive espresso machine they had brought from Denver. Morning, I said, trying to find where she had moved the bread. Oh, that is in the pantry now, Natalie said without looking up from her phone. I reorganized. The old system did not make any sense. I found the bread and made toast in silence, then gathered my things for work. When I reached for my lunch bag in the fridge, it was not there. Did you see a blue lunch bag? I asked. Oh, that old thing, Natalie said. It was taking up space, so I tossed it. You can just buy lunch today. She sipped her espresso. Besides, you probably eat out all the time anyway, right? Working at a dentist office, you must make decent money. I did not bother correcting her about my job. That lunch bag was mine. It was falling apart, Natalie said dismissively. I will buy you a new one if it is that important. I left without another word. My jaw clenched so tight it ached. The next few weeks became a masterclass in being made to feel unwelcome in my own home. Marcus and Natalie took over everything. They rearranged the furniture, complained about the neighborhood, and treated the house like a hotel, where I was the inconvenient staff member who kept getting in the way. Natalie started making comments about how I was in my late 20s and still living at home. She would say things like, when I was your age. I had my own place in a completely different city, as if my situation was some personal failure rather than a choice I had made to care for our sick father. Marcus stopped even pretending to look for work. He spent his days playing video games in what used to be my bedroom, while Natalie took online shopping to an Olympic level. I would come home from long shifts at the dental clinic to find the living room scattered with Amazon boxes, designer handbags, expensive clothes, decorative items we did not need. How are they affording all this? I asked Dad one evening after Natalie had unveiled her third new purse that week. They said it is from their savings, Dad said, but he would not meet my eyes. I knew there was more to the story, but I was too tired to push. The final straw came at Thanksgiving. Marcus and Natalie had been living with us for just over 3 weeks, and tensions were running high. I had worked a full day at the clinic, then spent my evening off preparing the entire Thanksgiving meal myself. Turkey stuffing, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, homemade cranberry sauce, pumpkin pie. Everything. Marcus and Natalie contributed nothing except criticism. The turkey is a little dry, Natalie said, picking at her plate. Did you remember to baste it? Yes, I basted it, I said through gritted teeth. Maybe it needed more time, Marcus chimed in helpfully. Or less time. I do not know. I am not really a cook. Then maybe you could help next time, instead of playing Call of Duty all day, I snapped. The table went silent. Dad cleared his throat uncomfortably. Sophia, your brother is going through a difficult time. I think we can all be a little more understanding. Understanding. I said, my voice rising. I have been understanding for 3 years while paying for your medications and keeping this house running. Where is the understanding for me? Now you want to lecture me about being nice, because I suggested Marcus could help cook. That is not fair, Marcus said. Not fair. I stood up my chair, scraping loudly against the floor. You know what is not fair? Working 10-hour shifts and coming home to sleep in a laundry room. You know what is not fair? Watching you two spend money on designer purses while claiming you are broke. You know what is not fair? Being treated like a guest in my own home. Sophia, sit down, Dad said firmly. No, I am done sitting down. I am done being understanding. I am done sacrificing while everyone else takes. Marcus leaned back in his chair with a smirk. You are being dramatic. We just need a place to crash for a little while. If you cannot handle that, maybe you should not be living here either. Maybe I should not. I agreed. Maybe none of us should forget who actually keeps this household running. That is enough. Dad said, his voice harder than I had heard it in years. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw something that broke my heart. He was going to choose Marcus again. You can move to the laundry room or leave, Dad said quietly. Those are your options. My brother smirked at me. You understand. Do not you? I looked around the table at the family I had sacrificed everything for. My father, who could not even meet my eyes. My brother, who had contributed nothing but entitlement. His wife, who treated me like hired help. And suddenly, everything became crystal clear. I understand perfectly, I said. I grabbed my purse from the counter and walked out the front door. Behind me, I heard Dad calling my name, but I did not stop. I got in my car and drove to my coworker Rebecca's apartment. She had mentioned once that she had a spare room if I ever needed it. I never thought I actually would. Rebecca opened the door in her pajamas, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. I spent that night on her couch, too numb to cry. The next day at work, I functioned on autopilot. Clean teeth, check. Gums? Smile at patients, repeat. My phone buzzed constantly with texts from Dad and Marcus, but I ignored them all. On the 3rd day after Thanksgiving, Dad called 13 times. On the 14th call, I finally answered. Sophia. Thank God, he said, his voice frantic. Where are you? Are you okay? I am fine, I said flatly. I am staying with a friend. You need to come home right now. We need to talk about this. There is nothing to talk about. You made your choice very clear. Sophia, please? I did not realize. I did not know. Realize what, Dad? That kicking your daughter out for your entitled son was wrong, because that should have been obvious. It is not about that, he said, and I could hear genuine panic in his voice now. It is about the bills, the medications. I went to pick up my prescription today, and they said it had not been paid. I called the mortgage company, and they said we are 2 weeks late. The electric bill is overdue. Everything is overdue, Sophia. I thought I assumed. You assumed I would keep paying while living in a laundry room, I asked coldly. You assumed I would keep funding this household while being treated like garbage. I did not know you were paying for all of it. Dad said desperately. I thought it was just helping out a little. I had no idea. Then you were not paying attention, I said. For 3 years, Dad. 3 years of me covering your $800 medications every month. 3 years of paying most of the mortgage. 3 years of groceries, utilities, insurance, everything. And you never once asked where the money was coming from. Sophia, I am sorry. I am so sorry. But I need those medications. Without them, my blood sugar, my blood pressure, I could end up in the hospital. I know, I said, and I did know. That was the worst part. Then please, he said, his voice breaking. Please come back. We can work this out. Can we? I asked. Because from where I am sitting, nothing has changed except now you realize I am not just some invisible ATM in the background. Things will be different, I promise. How Marcus and Natalie will contribute. They will help with bills. With what money, Dad? Marcus has not worked since he got here, and Natalie just bought another $600 handbag yesterday. Where exactly is this contribution coming from? There was a long pause. I will figure it out, Dad said finally. Just please, Sophia. I need my medications. I closed my eyes, feeling the familiar weight of guilt pressing down on my chest. The same guilt that had kept me trapped for 3 years. I will pay for this month's prescription, I said slowly. Just this month. After that, you need to figure out a real plan. Thank you, Sophia. Thank you so much. But Dad, I'm not coming back. Not to live in the laundry room, not to live in my old bedroom, not at all. I need space from all of this. But the bill's the house. That is your problem now. Yours and Marcus's. I have given enough. The call ended and I sat there staring at my phone. Rebecca emerged from her bedroom. You okay? I just agreed to pay for 1 more month of medications, I said. After spending 3 years paying for everything and getting kicked out for it. Why am I like this? Because you are a good person, Rebecca said gently. And because walking away completely is harder than people think. That night, I logged into my bank account and looked at the numbers that had been haunting me for months. In the past 3 years, I had spent approximately $90,000 on my father's care and our household expenses. $90,000. My entire savings from before Dad got sick. My emergency fund. My future. Gone. And what did I have to show for it? A futon in a laundry room and an eviction notice from my own family. I paid for Dad's medications the next day. $847 that I could not really afford. When I checked my bank balance afterward, I had less than $2,000 left. Years of work, years of sacrifice, and this is where I had ended up. But something shifted in me that day. I realized I could not keep living like this, could not keep putting everyone else first, at the expense of my own well-being. Rebecca let me stay in her spare room, while I looked for my own place. I also started picking up weekend shifts at a catering company that one of my patients owned. I needed to rebuild my savings, and I needed to do it fast. 2 weeks after I left, Natalie showed up at Rebecca's apartment. I opened the door to find her standing there looking uncomfortable, none of the usual condescension on her face. Can we talk? She asked. I almost said no, almost closed the door in her face. But curiosity got the better of me. Fine, I said, but we are talking out here. You are not coming inside. We sat on the stairs outside Rebecca's building. Natalie twisted her designer purse in her hands. I owe you an apology, she said finally. A real one. I did not know. I did not know about the money, about how much you had been paying. Marcus told me you just lived there and helped out sometimes. He made it sound like you were the one getting a free ride. Of course he did, I said bitterly. I know you do not believe me, but I'm telling the truth. He said your dad paid for everything, and you just chipped in for groceries sometimes. When I found out the real numbers, when your dad showed us the bank statements, I was horrified. What bank statements, Marcus? Asked your dad, to prove he could not afford things without you. He thought your dad was exaggerating to guilt trip us. So your dad pulled up 3 years of statements showing exactly what you had paid for. Medications, mortgage, utilities, insurance, medical copays, everything. Natalie looked at me with something like shame in her eyes. $90,000, Sophia. You spent $90,000 taking care of your father. Give or take, I said. Want to see my empty bank account? We sat there in silence for a moment. Marcus said it was expensive, but I did not realize, Natalie said quietly. Nobody realized, I said. That was the problem. You all assumed I was just chipping in a little here and there. You had no idea what it actually cost to keep Dad healthy and the house running, and instead of asking, instead of being grateful, you treated me like I was the problem. What do you want from us? Natalie asked finally. I want an apology. I want acknowledgement of what I have done. And I want to know that if I ever help again, things will be different. Come back, you would move back in. Maybe, I said slowly. If I am treated with respect, if my contributions are recognized, if I get my bedroom back. I paused, but honestly, Natalie, I do not think that is going to happen. I think you and Marcus are going to resent me even more now that you know the truth. You're going to feel guilty and defensive, and that is going to turn into anger directed at me. She did not deny it. That told me everything I needed to know. After Natalie left, Rebecca came out of her bedroom. You handled that well, she said. Did I feel like I just made everything worse. You set boundaries, Rebecca said. That is healthy. That night Dad called. His voice sounded older, somehow tired in a way I had never heard before. Sophia, I need to apologize, he said. I had no idea how much you have been doing. No idea what you have been paying. Marcus showed me some numbers, and I could not believe it. All this time, I thought Medicare was covering things. I thought you were just helping out a little bit. I know, Dad. Why did not you tell me? Because you were already stressed about being sick, I said. I did not want to add financial stress on top of that. I thought I was helping by just quietly taking care of things. You were helping, Dad said. You have been saving my life, Sophia, literally. And I repaid you by his voice, broke by choosing Marcus over you, by letting them push you out. I am so sorry. The apology should have felt better than it did. Instead, I just felt tired. What are you going to do, Dad? I asked. About the bills, the medications, everything. Marcus and I had a long talk, Dad said. A really long talk. He is going to take over the mortgage payment. Natalie is going to start paying for groceries. They are going to contribute while they are living here. That is good, I said. But the medications, the insurance, the medical bills, Dad said slowly. Sophia, that is more than they can handle right now. They are already stretched thin. I talked to my doctor about cheaper alternatives, and we are working on that. I also applied for some assistance programs, but in the meantime, you want me to keep paying for the medications I finished for him. Just until we figure out the assistance programs, Dad said desperately. I know I have no right to ask. I know I do not deserve your help after what I did. I closed my eyes. This was the moment I had been dreading. The moment where I had to choose between holding my ground and taking care of my father. I will pay for this month's medications, I said finally. Just this month. After that, you need to have a plan in place. The assistance programs, cheaper alternatives, whatever it takes. I cannot keep draining my savings, Dad. I need to think about my own future. I understand, Dad said. Thank you, Sophia. Thank you so much. But Dad, I'm not moving back. Not right now. Maybe not ever. I need space from all of this. I understand that too, he said. I do not blame you. After we hung up, I sat on Rebecca's couch and cried. Not from sadness exactly, but from the sheer emotional exhaustion of it all. Rebecca sat beside me and did not say anything, just handed me tissues and let me cry. The next morning I called the pharmacy and paid for Dad's medications. $847 that I could not really afford, but could not pay. When I checked my bank balance afterward, I had less than $2,000 left in savings. Years of work, years of sacrifice, and this is where I had ended up. But something shifted in me that day. I realized I could not keep living like this, could not keep putting everyone else first at the expense of my own well-being. I started looking seriously for my own apartment, Something small and affordable that would be truly mine. I also kept working the weekend shifts at the catering company. The work was hard, long hours on my feet, but it was helping me rebuild my savings slowly. 2 weeks later, I found a studio apartment in Midtown, not far from Rebecca's place. It was small but clean with good light and a tiny balcony. The rent was $650 a month, which I could just barely afford with both jobs. I signed the lease the same day. Moving day was bittersweet. Rebecca helped me load my few belongings into her car. Everything I owned fit in one trip. A futon, a small dresser, some clothes, a few kitchen items I had bought at Target. "This is it," I said, looking at the nearly empty studio. "My entire life." "It is a start," Rebecca said gently. "And it is yours." Over the next few months, I slowly built my life back up. The catering company promoted me to operations manager after I proved I could handle the weekend chaos. The raise was not huge, but it meant I could quit worrying about making rent every month. I started taking community college classes in business management, thinking about maybe opening my own catering business someday. Dad and I spoke once a week, brief calls where we kept things surface level. He had stopped complaining about his situation and stopped asking for money. Progress, even if it was small. Marcus eventually found steady work at a warehouse. It was not glamorous, but it was something. He started contributing to Dad's care, though nowhere near what I had been paying. Natalie eventually left Marcus and moved back to Denver. From what I heard through the family grapevine, she had found someone with more money and fewer problems. Marcus was bitter about it, but honestly, it seemed like the best outcome for everyone. 6 months after I left, Dad called with unexpected news. "I have been thinking about selling the house," he said. "Really?" "It is too big for just me and Marcus," Dad explained. "Too many memories. Too much maintenance. I found a nice senior apartment complex across town. 1 bedroom, all on 1 floor, easier to manage. I think it is time." "That sounds like a good idea," I said carefully. "The equity from the house will help me be more financially stable," Dad continued. "I will not need to rely on anyone." He paused. "I will not need to take advantage of my daughter's generosity anymore." "Dad," I started. "Let me finish," he interrupted. "I have been selfish for years, Sophia. Selfish with you, selfish with myself. I have been making excuses instead of making changes. That stops now. I am taking responsibility for my own life." I felt tears prick my eyes. "I'm proud of you," I said. "I should be saying that to you," Dad replied. "You have done something incredible with your life despite everything. You are stronger than I ever was." We talked for another hour that day, really talked, for the first time in months. Not about bills or obligations, but about life, about hopes, about rebuilding. 3 months later, I stood in the living room of my new apartment. Not the studio, but a real 1-bedroom place with a balcony and enough space to actually entertain. Rebecca was helping me hang pictures on the walls. "This place is perfect," she said, stepping back to admire our work. "It really is," I agreed. My phone buzzed with a text from Dad. "Settled into the new apartment. It is perfect. Thank you for helping me pick it out." I had gone with him to tour senior living options, offering advice, but letting him make the final decision. Our relationship had evolved into something healthier, boundaried but warm. Marcus texted in our sibling group chat. "Dinner this weekend, my treat. Want to celebrate your promotion? The catering company had made me a partner, giving me a stake in the business and a path toward eventually opening my own location." I looked around my apartment at the life I had built from scratch after losing everything. The furniture I had saved up for the business degree I was working toward, the career that was finally taking off. None of it would have happened if I had stayed in that house, stayed in that role of the sacrificial daughter who gave everything and received nothing. Getting kicked out had been the best thing that ever happened to me. I spent years being the good daughter, and where had it gotten me? Kicked out and broke. Now I was the daughter who chose herself, and I had never been happier. I learned that setting boundaries was not selfish, that walking away from toxicity was not abandonment, that sometimes the greatest act of love is loving yourself enough to leave. Dad thrived in his senior apartment, making friends and finally taking responsibility for his own well-being. Marcus learned what it actually cost to be an adult and started appreciating what I had done. Natalie remarried in Denver and became someone else's problem. As for me, I built a life I was proud of, a life that was mine, a life where I got to decide what I gave and what I kept for myself. Looking back, that Thanksgiving dinner was the worst and best night of my life. The night I lost my family was the night I found myself, and in the end, that was worth everything. If you are listening to this and you see yourself in my story, I want you to know something. You are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You are not required to sacrifice your future for people who do not appreciate your present. You are not selfish for having boundaries, for saying no, for choosing yourself. Family is important, but so are you. And sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is walk away from people who treat your kindness like weakness and your generosity like obligation. You deserve better. You deserve a life that is yours. You deserve to be seen, appreciated, and valued. And if your family cannot do that, then maybe it is time to build a new family, one that chooses you back. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that subscribe button and that like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below, telling me your thoughts. Have you ever had to walk away from family who took you for granted? How did you find the strength to put yourself first? Your story might help someone else find their courage. Until next time, remember that you are not required to attend every guilt trip you are invited to. Set your boundaries. Protect your peace, and never apologize for refusing to be taken advantage of. Take care of yourselves out there. And remember that the family you build is just as important as the family you are born into. Sometimes more.